Welcome, everybody. In my country, we have the reputation of always starting late, but I want to change that, so I'm going to start sharp. My name is Natalia Viles, and you're in the session Improving Customer Experience at VMware Using Service and More. We were lucky enough today to be in the cold, dark room. I hope you all have a coffee and have a blanket or whatever you need to go through this hour, and to join me in this path in which I will be presenting the experience that we have had over the past 6-7 years in VMware handling customer experience. This session will have two main topics. The first one will be focusing on our CX story and our CX journey, and the other will be survey analysis and a little bit of Tableau. As I would like to start by introducing myself. I am Natalia Viles Fioravanti. I am from Costa Rica. Costa Rica pura vida. Have you ever been to Costa Rica? Ooh, great. I live in the countryside of the country, pretty far from the city, in the mountains. I usually go hiking on weekends. And what else can I tell you about myself? I am a mom. I started actually analytics because of my motherhood. When my daughter was born, I stayed at home a full year. And then a friend called, hey, we're looking for somebody that knows math and knows Excel. And I was like, yeah, I can go. And then one thing brings you to the other, and I started with Tableau about 6 years ago, and I have been working with survey data for 4 years now at VMware. For the ones that are not familiar with VMware, VMware is a virtualization and cloud computing company. It is based in Palo Alto. It is a huge enterprise, and we have a company or a subsidiary of the company as well in Costa Rica. So it is located in a lot of places in the world, and we sell software to major enterprises, but also small businesses and universities and individuals. So that being said, this is our agenda for today. We're going to talk about 3 topics, and then VMware CX journey, survey analysis, and if you're not into any of those areas, I will give at the end some executive tips that we have applied when we're building executive dashboards. So CX, customer experience. What is customer experience? A lot of people try to confuse customer experience with customer service. It is different. CX starts at the moment that a customer or a possible customer wants to get to know about your product or your service, and he or she goes online, goes to your website, goes to forums, goes to Reddit, and starts looking for your product, for your services, starts reading the reviews. Then he or she decides to buy the product and either contact sales or purchase it online or whatever process you have to get the product. Then she or he installs the product or starts using the product, and is it easy for them to use? Is it too complex? And so on. Eventually, will he or she need to contact support or contact service or get a certification to use your product or your service? And then they decide if they want to keep buying your product or your service and renew the contract. So all those steps that I just mentioned is what we know as customer journey, and we measure customer experience in every one of those stages. VMware has an entire department that does that. I am part of this department, customer advocacy. But we not only focus on measuring the customer experience, but we also measure partner and employee experience. And we try to triangulate those results to get actually business decisions around our product and our services. And how do we do it? We do it through four processes. We have live interviews with people, one-on-one conversations with customers and with partners. We have a smaller group of customers that are actually willing to give us feedback. And we send them short polls once a month, like, we're going to change a product name. What do you think about this list? And the answer. Or how is your experience with support? And short 3-4 list and the answer. And we have survey programs, which is what I'm going to speak mostly today. We have 4 survey programs. We have partner survey relationships, customer relationship, product survey satisfaction, and we have support and services satisfaction survey. We take all these results and divide them, try to structure the data as much as possible. Some of the data is quantitative, some of the data is qualitative, which are the comments, the sentiment, and the actual feeling. And we try to put it together to tell a story on how can we improve support, or how can we improve the ease of use of a product. And this is a quote from Pat Gelsinger. Pat is the CEO of the company. He actually cares so much about the customer experience that make us different that he actually included NPS in the company goals, which NPS I'm going to talk a little bit later today. But having the endorsement of executives, having the endorsement of the VPs of each one of the business units is what really makes a CX program successful. And how do we do it? Well, we have the data to prove that it works. Net Promoter Score. Who here is familiar with Net Promoter Score? Good. So I don't have to explain a lot. For the ones that are not that familiar, this metric was born around 2003 in Harvard Business University, and it was presented like the one metric that you need to grow. And this number represents loyalty. And it is calculated by this question: how likely are you to recommend our product or service to a friend or a colleague? And it gives a scale from 0 to 10, in which 0 and 6, from 0 to 6 answers are considered detractors, 7 and 8 are considered passives, and 9 and 10 are considered promoters. For the NPS, it is the percentage of promoters minus the percentage of detractors. And it gives us a whole number that goes from minus 100 to 100. So if the NPS of a company is between 0 and 25, it is pretty good. From 25 to 50, it is a really, really good number. And above 50 is, poof, excellent number. So why is this number important? And it is not an industry standard. We have figured that promoters actually in our company spend twice as much product and services than detractors. You are able to do those calculations by triangulating the data with bookings or revenue data that you have in your warehouses. This is where we are at VMware today. This is a study, public study that was made by Bruce Temkin, and we got the results on August of this year. It measures a lot of enterprises across America, and we are compared with the 60 companies that are in the tech area, because it measures insurance companies and food companies and all the companies. So in the 60 technology companies, this is where we are. And we have been the only company that has been in the top 5 for over 6 years now. And this is the why we care. This is how we actually put in place our work. And Tableau. Tableau here has been our key for doing this. Why? Because we get to do things faster. 6 years ago, we did 24 PowerPoint reports after the survey date closed, and it took us 3-4 months to complete the full analysis for each one of the topics. At 2013, we included Tableau, and we get to do the same, a lot of reports, but in a little faster way, because we took the charts and we pasted them into Tableau. Still 24 reports. Then what we did, we started sending some key messages and the link to the Tableau, in which we had one-stop shop. We included all the questions and all the answers and possible filters that the users will have in the dashboard. We included in the tooltip the question name, because that was always a question. Okay, I can see product satisfaction, but what do you ask? So to get the audience more involved with the program, we started to include all those details that we were often leaving behind. And we send that in an engaging visualization, easy to use way. We often use stories to tell our data, filters, because if the person is not very familiar with the dashboard, it is hard for me to return from a filter visualization, but if you add the filter, it is simple for them. And last but not least, we uploaded the Tableau that we built in the desktop into the server. So we just sent a link. You don't need to have a Tableau reader, or you don't need to know even Tableau. You just open a website. And with that, we get to reach a broader audience in our company. And for that has been important, because we know that happy employees make happy customers. But one step above that, informed employees are able to make the right decisions in the right time for our customers. And this is talking only about surveys and survey data. What are the projects that we have today? We are taking this survey data and using operational data that we have in our warehouses, so we can try to predict the Net Promoter Score, and we can try to predict the satisfaction across products and services in the company. And we're also trying to take the data from social media and try to include that with the analysis that we do as a whole. Because, believe it or not, surveys are getting old, and we're having challenges with surveys. I think that surveys are fun. Who else thinks that surveys are fun? Good. I didn't expect those many answers. Survey programs we're having challenges with GDPR, and we're having challenges with response rates. And we need to face those challenges, making surveys enjoyable. Through this section, I will talk a little bit on how we have made surveys a little bit more enjoyable, and some of the analysis of the main metrics that we have in the surveys. And let me start by telling you about survey tools. There are a lot of survey tools in the market, and I guess that you all know. Currently, we're using Maritz, but we used to do Qualtrics, and we're avoiding people using SurveyMonkey in the company at least. It is great when you have a college work. So you can have surveys that actually have logic, that you can import the contact list so you can avoid the people to type their name and last name and email and company, because you already know if you upload the contact list. You can relate that answer to that contact. You can have different visualizations in the survey. You can have tiny letters, tables, awful things, and you can have a survey that is responsive, that you can answer in your laptop or in your tablet, and you can include the logo of the company or having format around the survey to make it pretty. This is how the survey looks now for us with Maritz. And we have learned also that long surveys are not good, but we still need the data. And surveys continue to be the best source of getting the exact data that we need. So what we have done is that we try to polish the survey as much as possible, try to say, okay, this is what we actually need. We need NPS and maybe the influencers for the NPS, and then we would like to know all this information as well. So we kind of removed all the unnecessary questions, and we put the survey into parts. So this is the questions, the important questions. Please answer this. And then, if you have 2-3 minutes more to continue, can you answer this part? And this have led us to increase our survey rate. When you tell the customer or the people that you're serving, how much will it take? What's the effort? And what is in it for them? You get to have more answers. Today, we run our major program twice a year. We get about 10,000 answers every time that we run it. And we have the Net Promoter Score as our major loyalty question, but also we have a lot of 7-point scale questions that are how satisfied are you with the product, how satisfied are you with support, and those other questions that will explain us why our NPS is as it is, and which specific areas we could be improving. And we also have demographic segmentation to better work in the data. I'm mentioning this geographic, business, and role segmentation because it is part of my example, so I want to give you the picture on how our program is. So once that you have selected your program and you investigated how to build service, not to put a left question in there like, we think our employees are amazing. Do you think that too? Give us a 10. Please don't do that. So once that you have that done, and it comes the analysis part. Among the survey programs, it is very similar how they work. So most of them are not yet able to connect to Tableau directly unless you have the API and you program how to connect them and everything. It is a little bit more complex. If you're going to start with a survey program, you just basically download the CSV Excel file to get the data. Once that you get the data, most of the surveys will give you the question name on the header of the data. So the question will say, Q1, how likely are you to recommend? And that's the full column name. Long, very, very, very long name. What happens if you rename the question or change the order of the question? You go back and connect that data into Tableau, your calculations will be broken. So I take that very, very long name and put a more significant name. Instead of having, how likely are you to recommend VMware, blah, 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 I have NPS, period. And it is easier for me calculations in Tableau. Review data format. So we all were to the keynote session, and there's a lot of fun things coming for this point. Probably you don't need to do it in this step because now Tableau can do that for you. But I just try to make sure that number field is number, text field is text, and there is no funky characters that will break your calculation. And last but not least, weighting, which I'm going to speak just in a moment. If you're including weighting, this is a great moment to include the weighting coefficient. So basically, you will have a data set that looks like this, added the weighted value, and transform that data set in something more clean, more easy to use and to understand. We like weighting. Weighting is a statistical procedure functionality that actually help us to get more trustable data, because it helps us in two ways. First, to make a sample size stable across your historical data or across your answers. And second, it helps us to have the distribution, the desired distribution among the answers. For example, if you're asking for women's at work, it will be great to give more weight to the female population that is answering your survey, because at the end, they understand it a little bit more. That's basically what you use weighting for. Or if you have an historical program you're going to continue to use, you will have differences in the data sample across time. Some years you're going to have more answers from one place. Some other years you're going to have less from the same place. And to try to make that sample size stable is when weighting comes, and it avoids the peaks and anomalies in the data. This is an example on how does the same data source looks on a data that is not weighted and a data that is weighted. It is the Net Promoter Score question, the percentage of promoters minus the percentage of detractors. Now the fun part, how to build those formulas. Formulas are really easy. You just need to take the NPS question and identify who of them are promoters, who of them are detractors. So it is just Net Promoter Score answer greater than 7, it is a promoter. Net Promoter Score answer less than 7, it is a detractor. So the difference between the weighting and the unweighted data is basically this number right here. If it is a promoter and it's not weighted data, you just assign a 1. And if it is weighted data, then you assign the coefficient of the weighting that you're using, basically. Now, Net Promoter Score. I already calculated the promoters and calculated the detractors. I take that and convert those scores that I'm going to calculate into an integer whole number. Because remember that you are subtracting percentages, and it will give you a percentage. That's why you have to use that tip in there of int round, and then the percentage of promoters minus the percentage of detractors. If at some point your Net Promoter Score is not working or is giving you a percentage, probably just by including the int round into your calculation will fix the problem for you. Seems to be pretty easy, right? And once that you have the formula, you just drag and drop and present that by gender, or present that by country, or present that by year, or by month, or by whatever you want to present, or just the big whole number. If you need a moment, these are the calculated formulas for weighting. The only step that weighting has that doesn't have the regular calculations is that we include passives to calculate the total of the responses, because we're not counting wholes, we're counting the weighting coefficient. So that's kind of the only difference. And basically, just by that weighting coefficient, you can do any formula that you will do regularly, but with weighting. So how satisfied are you? This 7-point scale. This is the same that a Likert scale or a 1 to 4 scale. I think that it depends on the practices that you adapted in your survey, but the way to visualize the scale questions are basically the same. We like most the 7-point scale because it gives more trust from my lens to those who actually answer 6 and 7 are really, really, really sure that they're satisfied. Neutral space is kind of 4, 5, and then 1 to 3 is bottom 3. These are easy ones. Just to make it a standard across all the answers, I'd rather have the percentage of total, because you may have people who answer one question but not the other. But if you have a percentage of total, just a quick table calculation, it will give you a standard across all the questions that you have. And you can use that to either show the full distribution of the data or segment the data in a way that will resonate for you, like a top 2 box, or a top 3, bottom 3 box, or top box, neutral, and bottom. So whatever resonates here, this is just the full distribution of the answer, and the one in the left-hand side, it is a group. So you just assign that percentage of total to the group or to the full distribution. And demographic details. There are 2 kinds of people. The ones that actually want to see only their data, which in that case, you only filter by the audience and send that over to them, or the ones that want to see how are they against other people. So for the competitors, I have this example here that is actually parameters. I use parameters with demographic calculations so you can have the demographic distributions or the demographic fields in a parameter. You create a parameter that is a list, and then you create a calculated field of the parameter and add it into your calculation, and it will split the data automatically. This is how it looks, basically. I'm just going to leave this here so you can see how it works and why do I like it so much. Have made my life so easy since I discovered this. So that's the parameter. And then the calculated field for the parameter. Those are the 3 segment fields that we actually use for our survey: geographical segmentation, role, and business segmentation. Easy case calculation, and then you just drag and drop the field that you create. and it will compare the data automatically between the segments. Instead of having 3 different charts or having a lot of information in the dashboard, just with one parameter, one control, you can have easily segmentation here. So before I continue, I want to pause and see if there is any question of the topics that we have covered. Yeah.
Did you give it the data in Tableau to get some views in different directions to calculate it?
Yes. Specifically for ranking and multi-select questions that are not included in this example, pivoting the data is more helpful. Actually, Steve Wexler, that work with service, know who he is, and he recommends to put the data kind of in 2 columns, pivot the table, pivot the full service. For our case, it was not usable because we had a lot of information, but for some specific questions, I did pivot the table. For ranking questions, multi-select questions, they usually come in a lot of fields when you download the data. So it is easier to handle those with a pivot than having a lot of columns for just one question. Yes?
I have a question with regards to sample sizes. So when people are slicing up survey data, a lot of times we get very small sample sizes. Do you just try to suppress those cells? Do you use 95% confidence intervals? How do you handle that situation?
Yes, we don't suppress them, but we do make clarity that those sample size is too low and it is not reliable, or results could be directional. Even what you could do in Tableau is kind of adding different colors with the sample sizes is smaller. So you just create a combination of colors. If this, I want to show, for example, the results by Europe region, by country. So I have my colors for the country. But if the sample size is lower, then I try to pale or gray those colors. So it is kind of a combination of both things. Okay. So let me recap here some tips that we have learned over these years, just for you to understand. Our audience is executives, business unit leaders, VPs. It is a very top, high audience that they like things very crisp, very clean, and very easy for them. So what do? We have to get to know who are we sending the dashboard to. Who are you going to share this? It's not the same that you go and take the dashboard and present the data yourself, manipulating the dashboard that you already know, that just sent the Tableau server link to an executive. Get to know your audience and who is going to use that dashboard and for what. Do they just want to see the numbers, or at some point they're going to paste some numbers on the presentation? So try to make the distribution of that visualization in a way that could be usable for the audience. KPIs, counts on top. Biggest numbers, right? So put them on top, put the summary. This is where we are at now. This is what we need to improve. Maybe add an arrow in there, up, down. And then when it goes in the bottom, you can put the details on where the areas that you need to improve. Also, I'll add here, when I'm doing survey visualization for data, I like to show the full distribution if it is only one period. If it has more than one or is an historical survey, I rather do a top-to-box and a line chart that will actually show the distribution over time. So considering those two topics, is this a one-time survey or is this something that's going to grow? Stories, parameters, filters. Stories will help you leading the audience, will help you guiding them through the story that you want to say, add text, add filters for them to make it easier for use. And last but not least, leverage online ideas. There's a full chapter in the Tableau big book of dashboards, which is great, which I'm sure that you can get in the store, and nobody's paying you for saying that is because it is really good. There is a full chapter that helps you visualize survey data. And not only survey data, a lot of data. And there are workshops, and there are things online that you can use for that. And some of them are great ideas. You don't have to invent the warm water to build what you need. Some of them are simply something that you cannot use in your program, which the example that I was telling her about Steve Wexler, which is great. But some of the ideas I cannot implement. It took me longer to try to figure out. So at the end, whatever works the best for you is the best for your dashboard. And with that, I would like to encourage all of you to complete the survey for today, complete all the surveys for the week, go home, answer surveys, get ideas for your program. Thank you very much.